Some car brands are hanging by a thread right now, like on life support. Brands you used to dream about driving? Now they're struggling to sell anything that isn't parked in a museum or listed on Facebook Marketplace with 3 warning lights. So buckle up, because today we're counting down the car companies that are just not it anymore. The ones that might not make it to the next model year. And yeah, we're naming names. Starting off with the car meant for rich guy midlife crisis. Maserati. Once upon a time, owning a Maserati meant you had arrived. Now, it means you made a terrible financial decision. Maserati's global sales dropped a humiliating 57% in 2024. In the US, they moved less than 5,000 cars. That's less than Subaru sells before breakfast. Even in Italy, their home turf, sales collapsed by 41%. Why? Simple. No one knows what Maserati actually stands for anymore. The cars break. A lot. We're talking electrical gremlins, leaky engines, and gearboxes that act like they're haunted. Maintenance costs more than your first apartment rent. And get this, Ferrari outsold Maserati. Lamborghini is catching up. To make matters worse, their CEO got the boot in 2024, and Trump's 25% import tariffs are now making these expensive cars even more expensive. Unless they build something revolutionary, Maserati might go the way of Blockbuster. And just when you think it can't get more tragic. Jaguar. From James Bond to Gone. Jaguar used to be cool. Now it's clinging to the last remaining F-Pace like your uncle who won't stop talking about the good old days. In 2024, Jaguar sold just 33,000 cars globally. That's an 82% drop since 2018. In the US, just over 13,000 units, which is about the same number of TikToks posted about cats in one day. And their big plan? Go all electric. Cool in theory, but they killed off almost every model in the process. No XE, no XF, just the F-Pace. That's it. Analysts say this might scare off 85% of their current buyers. Oh, and Jaguar Land Rover paused US shipments thanks to tariffs. So what's left? A company with no cars, no buyers, and a name your dad used to respect. Of course, they tried the world's most infamous rebrand recently, and it looks like it's done nothing to change their fortunes. But back to our Italian friends. Alfa Romeo. You know an Alfa when you see one. Sleek, sexy, loud. But under all that Italian drama is a mechanical nightmare. In 2018, Alfa was actually gaining ground here in the States, with nearly 24,000 sales. But by 2024, that number dropped below 9,000. That's a 63% faceplant. Why? Coolant leaks by 3,000 miles. The same story of alleged quality issues and recalls? Alfas now seem great to look at, but a pain to own. Even their star player, the Quadrifoglio, couldn't escape the breakdowns. Stellantis has already axed most of the fun models. What's left is meh. Dealers are struggling to convince anyone why you should pick an Alfa over BMW, Audi, or literally anything that won't explode at a red light. But they're not the only famous brand in trouble. Meet Mini, a small brand with a big identity crisis. Mini used to be fun, zippy, affordable, kind of like that friend who always brought snacks to the party. Now, Mini got bloated, confused, and kinda expensive. In 2024, they sold just over 26,000 cars in the US. That's down over 20% from 2023, and way down from their peak of over 76,000 back in 2012. Even worse, their brand new Countryman SUV is just sitting on lots, like a 188-day supply worth of sitting. BMW's been fumbling the bag. The 2024 refresh was a flop, they had a massive recall for faulty brakes, and they even canceled the electric Cooper convertible. Mini's stuck between two worlds, not cheap enough to compete with Toyotas, not luxe enough to hang with Audis. Unless they find their mojo again, they're fading into the background. But they're not the only ones whose heyday looks long gone. Chrysler is struggling too. Back in the day, Chrysler was a big deal, like GM and Ford level big. Now, it's the brand equivalent of someone who peaked in high school. Their entire lineup is 2 minivans, the Pacifica and the Voyager. That's it. That's the tweet. sales have tanked 50% over the past decade. The 300 sedan? Discontinued. The promising Airflow EV? Canceled before launch? And Stellantis, Chrysler's parent company, has been clear. Underperforming brands get cut. Back in 1979, they got a federal bailout to stay alive. Now, there might not be anyone left to save them. Sad, but not surprising. Another brand that won't surprise is Fiat. Here's a fun fact. In 2024, Fiat only sold 1,528 cars in the US. Not per day, not per week. Total. To put that in perspective, Toyota sells more cars on a Tuesday. Back in 2014, Fiat actually had a solid restart. Over 46,000 US sales. Then it all went sideways. Constant breakdowns, terrible reliability scores, no real SUV lineup, weak dealership network. Even their recent 500e re-release barely made a blip. Globally, they're still alive, but in the US, this looks like a slow-motion exit. But even Fiat's story looks promising compared to this surprising brand. Now you might be surprised to see Nissan on this list. After all, they sold over 924,000 cars in the US in 2024. So why are they in trouble? Because it's all smoke and mirrors. They're set to lose around $4.6 billion this year, and just axed 7 factories and 20,000 jobs. CEO says it's an extremely tough situation. No kidding. The lineup? Aging, no real hybrid presence. Their EV strategy? Confused at best. They had merger talks with Honda? That fell apart. Now, insiders say they might only have 12 to 14 months to turn things around. So yeah, Nissan's not gone yet. But the red flags are stacking up like unpaid parking tickets. So what happened? Why are we seeing so many proud brands facing a sad demise? In one word? Complacency. These brands got comfortable, lazy even. They relied on legacy names, badge loyalty, and old-school status, while the rest of the industry evolved and took over. EV car brands like Tesla brought viral buzz and made electric cars seem cool. Hyundai and Kia reinvented themselves with killer styling and cutting-edge hybrids. Even the Chinese brands, which everyone laughed off a few years ago, are now building legit EVs that don't suck. Meanwhile, the brands in this video, they're trying to continue selling decade-old platforms with a facelift and a new paint color, and calling it innovation. Nope. What sunk these brands is a toxic combination of poor reliability, lack of identity, and EV denial. The reality is, the car market is changing faster than ever. Buyers want performance and practicality, style and substance, and most of all, value. So when you're trying to sell a car with outdated tech, styling, and a bigger price tag based on your badge alone, that just isn't going to cut it in 2025. Bayer are letting automakers on a harsh truth. Legacy doesn't guarantee loyalty. In 2025, you don't win just because you used to make cool cars. You win by listening to customers, delivering value, and not treating innovation like a side quest. The road ahead is brutal. But if there's one upside to watching these giants fall, it's that the next generation of cars and car companies are going to be groundbreaking, and we can't wait. So, join me a sad, slow wave to the brands of our childhood. We'll miss you all. And get ready, because the next era of car culture might look nothing like the last. See you in the next one. And as always, have fun out there.